Good morning. Okay. So, yesterday we were seeing the things about indicator random variable. Okay. So, I'll write RV for random variable. Okay. So, can anybody tell me what is indicator random variable? What are the values that it can take? Yes. It can take only two values, which is 0 and 1. Okay. So, what do you mean by I of A? Yes, very correct. If event A occurs, yes, then it will be 1. If event A does not occur, then it will be 0. Okay. So what is the expected value of indicator random variable? If you recall, what is this answer? Expected value of indicator random variable for an event A. Very correct. So let me revise that first. Okay, so that what we have seen is this indicator random variable takes two values, as you said. Expected value is what? The random value into probability of this event. Okay, so 1 into probability of A plus 0 into probability of particular event. So if event A occurs, then it is A. But event A does not occur, then it will be A complement which is going to occur. But its random value is 0. So 0 into probability of A complement. So remember, the expected value of indicator random variable is same as probability of corresponding event. So if you are having indicator random variable for event A and its expected value is same as probability of event A. And this is very important result. Okay, let us take one example. Okay, let us take some example that suppose I just toss a coin once. So my sample space will be head or tail. So what is an indicator random variable? For example, if I take a head, I'm interested in head, let's say. So if head occurs, then it will be taking value 1. And if tail occurs, then it will be taking value 0. So what is an expected value of this? So it is 1 into probability of head plus 0 into probability of head complement, means tail. Okay, so which is same as probability of head. And you know what is the probability of head? If you toss a coin one time, yes, it is 1 by 2. So what is an expected value of indicator random variable corresponding to event that head is occurring? That is nothing but probability of head, and which is 1/2. Okay, so let us extend this idea. Okay, let us extend this idea. Okay, suppose I toss coin n times. I toss coin n times. Okay, n could be 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Okay, so definitely my sample space would increase. Okay, and now I want to find out this thing, expected number of heads. Why I want to find out expected number of heads when you toss a coin n times. Okay, so what I will be doing is I will taking n indicator random variables. IRV means indicator random variables. I'll take n indicator random variables, one corresponding to each toss. Okay, one random variable corresponding to each toss, and let us write it as xi. X subscript I. So xi could vary from 1 to n. So it will be x1, x2, and so on xn. Okay, what is x1 indicating? It is an indicator random variable corresponding to first toss. Okay, and the event is that we are interested is what? Which event I am interested? I want to count what? Expected number of what? I want to count heads. Yes. So that is so xi denote an indicator random variable related to ith toss. So remember, I denotes a toss number. Okay, ith toss of a coin. So xi takes two values. Either it will take 1 or 0 because it is an indicator random variable. When it takes 1, if you toss a coin and if you get a head, it is 1. Okay, that ith toss of a coin is head, then it is 1, and otherwise it will be 0. Okay. So can you tell me what is the total number of heads? I'm not asking about expected. How total number of heads will be written as what? Any idea? No, no, no. Uh, no, no. What I'm asking first, listen. I toss a coin n times. Okay, x1 indicates, okay, x1 will be 1 if first toss, okay, gives head. Okay, and x1 will be 0 otherwise. Otherwise means if it is a tail. Similarly, x2 means second toss. x2 will be 1 if a second toss is head. If second toss results in head, then it will be 1. x2 is equal to 0 otherwise. So I want to tell you that total n times I will be doing this experiment. Okay. So how many heads I will get exactly? Suppose I give you sum of xi. Very correct, Priyanka. Yes, everybody getting this, what I'm trying to say? Priyanka's answer is correct. Rishi, n by 2 is going to come, but it is not exact. I am saying, so let us, I give you a 1 point and you do this 5 times. Okay. And out of 5 times, somebody gets the head 1 time, 0 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 time. It's a random variable. So sum of xi. Okay. Fine. So let us say, Rishi, that you are tossing coin 3 times. Okay, you actually do this 3 times actually. Then x1 would be what? What will be the value of x1? Rishi? Anything? It's not head or tail, it's 0 or 1. Outcome of the event is 0 head or tail. But if you are getting head, x1 would be 1. If you are going to get tail, x1 would be 0. Rishi, are you getting what I'm trying to say? Yes. Okay. So x1 would be 0 and 1. So let us say x1 is 0. Let us say. Then you do it second time. So x2 is again 0 or 1. Let us assume it is 1 now. And now third time x3 is again 1. Okay, now if you do x1 plus x2 plus x3, you are getting 0 plus 1, which is 2. That means out of 3 tries, you get head how many times? Exactly 2 times. Am I saying correct or not? How you are getting that sigma xi? Yes. Okay. So this is a sigma xi, that is, therefore we can define random variable x. X is also a random variable because we see it is not always 2. Somebody can get x1 equal to 1, x2 equal to 1, x3 equal to 1. Then sigma xi is 3. Somebody can get all zeros. So sigma xi is 0. So it's still a random variable, but it is now not no longer an indicator random variable. This x is a random variable, but it is not an indicator random variable. It's a sum of indicator random variables. Okay. So which denotes what? Total number of heads out of n tosses of a fair coin. So this is a compact way of writing it. Sigma xi, I varies from 1 to n. Okay. So now what is that our goal? What is the question? I want to find expected number of heads. Okay, the experiment which I told to Rishi, it is exact number of heads. Now I want an expected number of heads. So x is a random variable. Okay, so what I will be able to do is I will be able to find e of x. I will be able to find e of x. What will happen? Yesterday itself we have seen. Okay, expectation. You take an expectation operator both the sides. The expectation of x is same as expectation of sigma xi. Okay, which property have I used here in this step? Which property have I used? E of sigma xi, and a sigma I take outside and E I am taking inside. Which property this is? Yes, yesterday we have seen this. Expectation of x1 plus x2 plus so on and xn is same as expectation of x1 plus expectation of x2 plus expectation of x3 plus so on expectation of xn. Linearity property, very correct. This property yesterday you have seen, right? You can interchange this sigma and e. Okay, so you can take this e inside, okay, and sigma outside. You can interchange this two. This is not always true. Okay, expectation is such a operator. Okay, for expectation it is true. Okay, so what I will do is I take this E inside. Okay, so that would be sigma xi. Why? Because E is a linear operator. Expectation operator is a linear operator. Okay, so now, so you can interchange this. Now you tell me, what is E of xi? E of xi. Xi is an indicator random variable. Okay, remember, x1, x2, xn all are indicator random variable. So what is expectation of xi? Which is what? Anybody? Probability of that event. What is that event? Krishil, you are correct. Probability of head. Yes or no, Krishil? Yes. Okay. And what is that probability of head? If you toss a coin one time, what we believe is 0.5. Very correct. 1 by 2. So this expectation of xi, so recall that expectation of indicator random variable or probability of corresponding event. Okay. So expectation of xi is probability of head in if toss, and which is 1/2. So what I can put is, here I can put 1/2. So here I can put 1/2. And this 1/2 is a constant which is added n times. So 1/2 n times, which is n by 2. What does that mean? Expected number of heads. What is this answer? Ex. The expected number of heads is n by 2. And this is obvious, right? This is just a basic example that if you toss a coin n times, okay, and what is the expected number of heads that you are going to get is on an average half. Okay, your actual results may vary, right? If you do experiments by yourself, your number of heads would be less than or greater than 1/2, okay? N by 2, or greater than n by 2 or less than n by 2. May not be exact, but it is nearer, okay? As this number of trials n increases, this would increase. The answer, quality of answer will increase. Everybody is getting this. Expectation of x is equal to n by 2. Means on an average, you are getting, no, Janil, it is not a probability. It is a sum of probabilities rather. Yes or no? Uh, yes. Expectation is, yes, somebody raised a hand. If you have any doubt, then you can ask, okay? Okay. Yes, everybody getting this? Others? Yes. I want some responses, okay, so that I can move ahead. Okay, okay. So now, so this is about the expectation. Okay, so remember this thing, indicator random variables are the Boolean random variables, takes only 1 and 0 value, and expectation of that variable is probability of corresponding event. Okay, and one more thing, expectation is a linear operator. Okay, so you can interchange sigma and E. This is very important. Now let us take one example today. Okay, so let us take an example of a hiring problem. Okay, so let's see this problem. Hiring problem. So you decide to use an employment agency to hire one candidate. Remember, your goal is to hire one candidate. And since you don't have access to candidates, so you decide to use an employment agency. Okay. So what you do, the agency sends you one candidate each day. So on each day, the agency sends you one candidate. So what is your role? You interview that candidate and then decide whether to hire that person or not. And for that, you must need to pay something to the agency, the small fee to interview a candidate. Okay, in order to interview, okay, a candidate, and if you are selecting that candidate, substantial amount of fee to hire a candidate, because we need to fire existing candidate. Remember, I want to hire only one candidate. This is my goal. Okay. So there may be already existing candidate. Okay. For some reason, you want to hire a new candidate. So there are two things. One is interviewing. So agency sends you the candidate. So first you interview, and then after taking interview, either you hire or reject. Okay. Hiring cost is very high because you need to fire the existing candidate on the post, and then you have to hire a new one. Okay. So there are two costs involved. Which are the two costs? The first cost to interview the candidate, and the second cost is to actually hire the candidate. Definitely, hiring cost is significant. So, uh, so this is a deterministic algorithm. So a deterministic algorithm is very easy. Okay. So suppose the agency has total n candidates. He sends each candidate on a day, and so initially best is equal to 0. So 0 is some dummy candidate. Okay, just like you initialize minus infinity plus infinity, I initialize best equal to 0. Okay, so 0 is some dummy candidate. And then I have total n candidates. Each day I iterate through this process. For I equal to 1 to n, so on first day, I'll interview the candidate number 1. And if I find the candidate 1 is better than the best, see initially best is 0, so that means there is no candidate. So the first candidate whenever it comes, okay, if I found it is the better than the best, which is always the case on the first day, okay, then I will update my best to I. I means the candidate number. Okay. And then I need to fire the existing candidate and hire the candidate number I. If you have already the some candidate, you have to fire that existing candidate and hire the new candidate. Okay. The second I equal to 2, the same process will repeat. This is a deterministic algorithm. Everybody agrees this is the simplest algorithm? Clear with this? I want to introduce a randomization in that. Okay. Yes. So the cost of hire of initial is added to cost. Uh, uh, so see, if you analyze this algorithm, so you have to at least interview every candidate, Janil. So n times you need to do interview, n times you interview because there are n candidates. So every day you take an interview, so n times you interview. So cost of interview is n times. Okay. Okay, so if we hire 1 now and we hire 2, so hiring cost of 1 is added or not? Okay. Uh, I mean, of course, you change your decision. So, I mean, you need to fire an existing candidate. So, whatever the policy is, accordingly, you have to fire the candidate and you need to pay something and then you need to hire the other thing. So, that is usual. Okay, Janil, is it clear? What I'm trying to say? Is that considered here? Yes, yes, definitely. That's why. So what I am telling you is the hiring cost is actually significant compared to the interviewing cost, and our focus should be on hiring cost because interviewing cost in deterministic algorithm is fixed. I need to interview all the candidates. Okay, there is no way out of that. Okay, but the thing that we can optimize using randomization is the hiring cost. So whatever the policies are they are following, according to that they have to pay charges to fire the existing candidate and they have to hire. So we will not say this is the cost. We will say CH is the cost of hiring. Okay, which includes both the things, firing the existing and hiring the new. I hope you understood, Janil, what I'm trying to say. Yes. Okay. So, but let us assume that cost of interviewing one candidate is CI. So CI is cost of interviewing the IF candidate. Okay. And to hire one candidate means hire and fire both. Fire previous and hiring new one is CH. So what would be the cost, total cost? You repeat this n times. So Ci into n, okay, n into Ci. Okay, this will be the cost. And in a worst case, what will be the worst case? Because you don't know how the agency is sending. Higher will be outside the for loop. Is it, sir? I mean, higher candidate I should be outside for loop. Why? Every time you need to, I mean, check whether the new candidate is better than the previous. That you interview and then check. And then if you find so, then you need to hire the new candidate. So it cannot be written outside the for loop. It's based on, so suppose you have already seen 4 candidates. On the 5th day, you find a better candidate. Then you need to fire the existing candidate and hire the new 5th candidate. That way it is going to work. So I cannot write it outside the for loop. I hope that is clear, Sayanish. Yes. And Janil's answer is correct. In worst case, hire whoever comes, no matter what the quality. Rather than saying that, I mean, remember, Keval, I am going to hire only one. My goal is, an objective is to hire only one candidate. So in worst case, what happens is the quality of persons is strictly increasing. So on a first day, you find definitely there is no one. So let us say you hire the first candidate. On a second day, you found that the second candidate is better than the first one. So you hire the second one. On the third day, you find that third is better than both first two. So I mean, you hire the third one. So on each day, you fire an existing candidate and hire a new candidate. So that happens when the candidates are coming in strictly increasing quality. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yes. Jagdish, Keval, Janil, B, everyone is getting or not what I am saying? Yes. And at that moment of time, the worst case will happen. And the worst case, see, this cost is fixed. Interview, you have to interview every candidate. But in a worst case, you have to also, suppose there are m number of people that you are hiring. Let us say out of n, okay, out of n people, definitely m is less than n. So n is the total number of candidates. M is the number of candidates that you are hiring. Okay, I mean, m times you are hiring. So every time you take a cost of ch, so that would be chm. The worst case happens when m is equal to n, as I mentioned. If this m will become n, this would be a worst case. Okay, so in the worst case, we actually hire every candidate that we interview. This occurs if the candidate comes in strictly increasing order of quality, in which case the hiring cost will be ch into n, because m is equal to n. And in reality, this may not occur, but this is just to understand that what is the worst case. Okay, so let us modify this strategy. Now remember, this was about deterministic algorithm. Nothing is randomized here. I want to focus on randomized thing. Let us modify this. Okay, so that my overall cost is reduced. I want to reduce this cost. Okay, I don't want to touch the worst case. Okay, and overall, I want to reduce the cost. How can I do that? So for that, I need to take a control back to my hand. Okay, control back from agency to my site. So how you can do that? You can take a, you can ask, yes, very correct, Janet. So what you can do is you can ask, give me a list of n candidates. You ask your agency that give me the list of candidates, all the candidates. Then what you can do? Randomly select, any particular person randomly from that. Okay, because you never know that how that candidates are sent, in which order, whether they are strictly increasing or what order, right? So rather than believing on agency, you take a list of candidates, you randomly permute those candidates, and then take one by one. Or you can take randomly one person, then second person, and so on, and then you interview the candidate with a hope that worst case will not occur. Okay, so so what we'll do is, rather than relying on an agency they send, we will modify the strategy. What we do, we will ask for a list of candidates, then we will randomly permute the list. Okay, and then, so now control is in our hands. Okay, so we actually know that candidates arrive in random order. Okay, so earlier we were not knowing that whether they are sending purposefully like this, or what is the strategy, that we don't know. So we just take a list, we permute the list, and then we take. So now what we know is that we know that candidates are arriving actually random order. So you will say, what is the benefit of this? Okay, so this is a randomized hire assistance. So you see, I have changed the first line. What is the changing? Randomly permute the list of candidates. So you ask a list, he will give, agency will supply you the list, and then you permute the list. And then you execute the same algorithm. Okay, best 0, then interview the candidate, and if the IF candidate is better than the best, you update the best and hire the candidate. This is the same thing. Okay, and now I need to analyze this, and for analysis I will use indicator random variable. Everybody getting how I changed the strategy from deterministic to randomized? Getting this, what I am saying? Yes, there are 150 students. I should get at least 10-15 responses. Okay, and remember, if you have any doubt, then you can ask me. Okay, or okay, so that it will not be propagated, because these things are really going to be useful in future lectures. Okay, so let us see this. So what is an analysis? Now please see the analysis. The algorithm is clear to you. Okay, just a one line is added. Randomly take a list. Okay, and the analysis is, let us take an indicator random variable. I means indicator random variable. What is an event? Corresponding to event that candidate I is hired, because there are two choices, right? Candidate I may be the better or not. If he is better, then he will be hired. Okay, otherwise he or she will not be hired. Okay, so if candidate I is hired, the xi takes a value 1. Okay, as previous, if head occurs 1, if tail occurs 0. Same way, if candidate I is hired, the value of xi is 1. If candidate I is not hired, the value of xi is 0. Again, the same thing. I want to define a random variable x, which indicates total number of candidates hired. How many total number of candidates hired? Okay, the same thing as that number of expected number of heads or number of hits. Okay, so how many total number of candidates hired? X1 indicates, yes, sample space, yes, is the candidate list, yes, I mean, uh, X1 is an indicator random variable corresponding to the event that it is hired or not. So sample space, I mean, candidates are there. Sample space means it would be either 0, I mean, candidate is hired or not. Like hired means head and not hired means tail, like that, Ronak. Are you getting? Now, we are not much concerned about the sample space rather, right? So the total number of candidates hired are some of this indicator random variables, x1 to xn. Okay, x1 means first is hired or not. So x1 can be either 0 or 1. In fact, any of this can be either 0 or 1, depending on whether it is hired or not. So what is x? Total number of candidates hired, which is sigma xi. Okay. And what is our interest? Our interest is to find out expected value of x. Okay. So now you see, expected value of x, let me write it here. Okay, we want to find expected value of x. So it will be expectation of sigma xi. Okay, now you know this, you can interchange this sigma and e. So it will be sigma e of xi. And last time that thing was simple. E of xi was 1/2 last time in case of number of heads, expected number of heads. Now listen, E of xi, expectation of indicator random variable. So see carefully how I am going to write. So what is expectation of xi is what? Anybody want to write this? Expectation of xi is in terms of probability. Yeah, that is correct. But general, first let me go step by step. How I write probability of, yes, very correct. Probability that ith candidate is higher. Very correct. Okay, now see, I am taking interview one by one. Okay, uh, so you can see here, expectation of xi is nothing but the probability of candidate I is higher. Okay, because xi is 1 if candidate I is higher. Okay, so now remember, suppose it is a first candidate. I mean, I don't have a choice. I have to select that candidate. But suppose there are two candidates, then I don't know anything about the candidates. Once I interview, then I will be able to know. So the earlier I will be having equal probability of selecting any of the two candidates. So if you have two candidates, each one is equally likely to be selected. If you have three candidates, then each one is like equally likely to be selected. So that is probability of each one to be selected is 1 by 3. Okay, so remember, what is probability that ith candidate is higher is 1 by I. Why? Because see, I have seen how many candidates so far? I candidates only. I am doing this iteratively, one by one. So I have seen up to I candidates only. And then what? And every candidate is equally likely. In absence of any knowledge, initially every candidate, okay, is equally likely. I assume this. Okay, we have to assume, remember, because we don't know anything about candidate earlier. Once I interview, then I will be able to know. So every candidate is equally likely to be selected. Okay, out of I candidates that I have seen. Okay, that I have seen. And so, in absence of any such knowledge, I would say probability that ith candidate is selected, okay, is 1 upon I, because any of the candidate is equally likely to be the best qualified so far. Okay, and so yes, are you getting this? What I'm trying to say, Ronak and Priyank, yes, Zuzar and I don't know your names, so I hope you will reply and I will be able to learn your names. Okay, Shail. Okay, so so that will be E of xi would be 1 upon I, and now you see sigma I equal to 1 upon n, 1 upon I. Now you see sigma 1 upon I. Now all of you must have learned the integration. Okay, why it 1 upon I? It cannot be 2 upon. Why you want to add a factor of 2, Zuzar? I am going to select one candidate, right? Probability of candidate I to be selected, okay, is 1 upon I, with a reason that out of I, any one is likely to be selected, okay, as others. Okay. So because two candidates can also be selected. No, Zuzar. Remember, our goal is to select a one candidate only. Are you getting what I'm saying? Finally, eventually, I want to get a one candidate. Okay. I hope you are getting, Zuzar. Clear? Thanks. Okay. So sigma 1 upon I. Okay, can somebody tell me what is integration 1 upon x dx? Integration 1 upon x dx is what? I think you must be knowing, right? Log x. Yes, log ln x. Very correct, ln x. Okay. So same way in discrete form, it is sigma. So it is 1 upon I. Sigma 1 upon I means 1 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 4. So if you approximate this in a discrete form, this is also 1 upon sigma 1 upon x. Integration in discrete form, it is sigma. So what I can write is sigma 1 upon I can write as this is 1 plus 1 upon 2, so 1 upon 3 plus so on, okay, up to n, 1 upon n. Okay. So this would be in like approximating this would be, this is a result. O of 1 means constant and log of n. Because you are doing up to nth term, it will be ln. Ln means base, you know this, right? So remember what I am getting, this is what ex, expected value of x. So if I do this, even though we interview n people, we hire only approximately ln n of them. So what is an average hiring cost? One candidate if you hire, then it would be ch. But on an average, expected number of candidates that you hire is how many? Log n. Okay, expected number of candidates that you hired is a log n and not n. So on an average, what will be the hiring cost? On an average, the hiring cost will be ln n. Okay, so on an average, what I'm trying to say, how many candidates are hired? ln n. And so what will be the total cost? It will be ch into ln of n. So worst case, it would be ch into n, as you told me, right? But if you use randomization, I have a better control. So actual results may be deviated somewhat, right? But uh, on an average, you will hire log n base e number of candidates. And this is the advantage. Earlier, it was how many? In a worst case, chm, this m could go n, so it will be ch into n. And now it would be ch into ln. Yes, everybody is clear how the randomization helped us uh, so that I cannot have a worst case, or I can be sure that on an average I am not going to hire every candidate, but rather I will hire approximately log n number of candidates. Okay, fine. So, yes, Janil. I mean, Zuzar, Jagdish, everybody clear? Yes? Yes. Okay, fine. So now let us take a next topic, that is a randomized quicksort. Okay. So now remember, randomized quicksort, my goal is not here to introduce with the quicksort idea. Okay. The quicksort you must have learned during third and fourth semester. Okay. So here the idea is the learning of quicksort. I am going to teach you how to modify the quicksort so that uh, that will be expected number of steps will be n log n. Remember, now onwards I will use an expected number of steps or expected number of comparisons. Okay, and randomized quicksort is which type of algorithm? Las Vegas or Monte Carlo? Which type of algorithm it is? Las Vegas. Why, Yash, it is called Las Vegas? What are the properties of Las Vegas kind of algorithms? They always produce 100% truth. And what is, yes, it gives correct output for sure. And one more thing. Randomize is not optimized. Yes, we are not saying optimize, but Sainesh, the expected number of steps on an average for some input, you will give, you will have on an average n log n number of steps, and which would be a very good thing, no matter what is your input. but so you know, in normal quicksort, if you give this type of input, it would be a worst case. Yes, Sainish, this would be a worst case. Directly sorted or reversely sorted, both things are worst case. But even if you give this type of input to the algorithm, randomized algorithm, still the very high chance is that it will not be n square, but it would be nearer to n log n, and that would be the benefit of randomization. Okay, the goal is that expected number of comparisons in a randomized quicksort is, okay, expected number of comparison is comparison, because for sorting comparisons are important, okay, is n log n. This is what I am going to prove. Okay, no matter what is the input sequence, whether it is 10 20 30 40 50, 50 40 30 20 10, okay, or any other random order, still on an average number of comparisons are upper bounded by n log n. That is my goal. Okay, so let's see. So, as I discussed yesterday, if we consider a fixed place of pivot, so many people take a last element as a pivot, many take first element, okay? So someone can always come up with an input on which quicksort performs the worst case. And yesterday you told me the worst case with recurrence and square comparisons. So the idea here is to randomly select a pivot. Remember, this is a very important line. Rather than taking a fixed pivot element in the quicksort, randomly select a pivot element from the array. Okay. Since it is a divide and conquer based approach, in each recursive call, the pivot is randomly selected from available data. Okay. So one cannot come up with the input like discussed earlier. What do you mean by discussed earlier? That you cannot come up with the input on which the worst case will happen. Okay, so this is the overall idea. So in every iteration of the recursion, okay, every recursive call, I will select a pivot randomly, okay, and then using that, I will do the quicksort. Let's take an example. Okay, let's take an example. Let's take that we have an array. Let's take we have an array capital A of 1000 elements. You can have 10 lakh elements also. This is just an example. So from main, what I will be doing? From main, I will call randomized quicksort. Okay, the array is A. There are 1000 elements. This is like a P, the starting index. This is R, that is ending index. P is equal to 1. Okay, which means first element start from index 1, and that is 10 raised to 3. R is 10 raised to 3. That is 1000. Okay, so these elements I want to sort using this randomized quicksort function. Okay, so what is a randomized quicksort function? So remember, I am not concerned about how you implement a quicksort, because there are two ways generally I found from the students. Most of them you take the last element as a pivot and then compare every element with the last and then do necessary things, right? Or somebody can start from first and take 2 pointers and then increment and decrement first and second pointer, and then they try to find out the proper position. So both are correct. Okay, so that is a normal quicksort. What is the change that you understand? So here, whenever P is less than R, that is 1 is less than 1000, what you do first, you take a partition, right? And it is this partition, this is a randomized partition. It's not a usual partition. Okay, and randomized partition will give you some index Q. For example, it gives you 200. That means 200 is a P is 1 and R is 1000. Okay, and Q is 200. That means one partition will be from 1 to 199. This will be the left hand partition, and the second partition would be from 201 to 1000. From 201 to 1000. So this is a left partition and this is a right partition. So again, the randomized quicksort will be recursively called for those things. This you know. So this is a divide and conquer based approach. randomized quicksort is called 2 times, one for left side, one for right side, and pivot will be properly placed. Let's say 200, then 200 is the position of pivot. Okay, so that is correct. And based on that, two partitions are there. What is this randomized partition? Okay, so in randomized partition, okay, so I go with the approach where generally we select the last element as a pivot. But what we will do, we will first take random number from P to R. So from P to R. What is P? P is 1, P is 1 and R is 1000, right? P is 1, R is 1000. Okay, please tell me any random number from P to R, that is 1 to 1000. Just a one. Okay, 657. So Urjit said 657. So now what I will do, Urjit, is I will exchange A of 657 with A of 1000, that is R. Okay, which is nothing but 1000, right? What I will exchange is last element, which is 1000th element, rth element, with the random number element. So now what will happen, that now, so I will create any random number. So I is 657, as Urjit said. Okay, and now I exchange A of 657 with A of R. A of R means A of 1000. So that is I swap so that we can proceed with the normal quicksort. And now I have to do the normal quicksort. Remember, now I don't have to do anything else. Now I can apply the normal quicksort where we take last element as a pivot. Okay, somebody says I am not taking last element as pivot, right? My strategy is to take first element as a pivot. Don't worry, exchange A of 657 with A of P. Okay, if you are taking first element as a pivot, exchange with A of P, otherwise exchange with A of R. Yes, this won't take more time than original. Just we need to take, generate one random number, which takes a constant time if you do it one time. Okay, so Zuzar, the thing is not that, the thing is expected number of comparisons, and that we will analyze how that is. So the essence of the thing is randomization. Okay, the random number generation, so random selection of pivots will very much helpful here. Okay, so then you will return, you will call partition. It was a randomized partition. So that partition is the original quicksort partition. This I will not explain. Okay, you can do it in various ways. So this is the most probably in the book. You take last element as a pivot and compare every element from P to R minus 1 with the pivot. And if you find A of j is less than equal to x, you increment I, exchange A of I and A of j. After for loop, you have to exchange A of I plus 1 with A of R, and I plus 1 is the proper position of pivot. And remember, this partition you can implement your own ways. Somebody can take a pointer at the first and last and increment and decrement, and then also they can find the index. I plus 1 is nothing but an index of pivot. Okay, but basically you are comparing every element. You see this for loop. Pivot is the last element, and you are comparing every element with the last element. And based on that, you are either going in this if condition or you are just iterating in a for loop. Okay, and finally you find a proper position of a pivot, which is I plus 1. So now let us see one thing. Now please listen to, carefully observe this example. Okay, next time we will see analysis based on this. Okay. So let us say I have just this data 1, 8, 5, 3, 11, 12, 6, 97, and 33. This is any random data, right? I want to sort this. So what I have taken is I have randomly selected some pivot. So let us say I have selected this as a pivot. So this is a pivot. So what will happen? Based on that, there will be partition. So all the data smaller than 3 will come on one side, that is 1. And all the data which is greater than 3 or equal to 3 greater than equal to 3 will come on here, this side. So on this side, it will be 8, 5, 11, 12, 6, 97, 30. Okay. You can see here there is just a one element, and you always know that one element is always sorted. Okay. So this is over. Now my sub problem is this. This is a recursive call to this problem. This is already done. This is already sorted, one element. So now again take random element from this. So if you take any element as a pivot, let's say 11 I take as a pivot. And if I take 11 as a pivot, so all the elements less than 11, which are 8, 5, and 6, will come to the one side. And all elements greater than 11, that is 12, 97, and 33 will come this side. It's a random, okay? How 11 came is a random function. This is just an idea. Now you see there are two partitions. Left side is 856, right side is 12, 97, 30. Now 856, you can take any element as a pivot. Here I have taken, let's say, 6. So 5 is less than that, so we'll go here. 8 is greater than that, we'll go here. 5 is already sorted, 8 is already sorted because just a one element. Okay. Then 12, 97, and 33, you take some element as a pivot. I have done two iterations simultaneously, okay, because you can understand easily. So 33, okay, all elements less than 33 will go here. See, I'm not saying always you have to take 33. You can take 97. The tree will be different. If you take 97, okay, both 12 and 33 are less than that, and accordingly 3 will be formed. Okay, because it's a random. So I have just taken assumptions that this is the particular pivot. You can take other assumption, tree would be different. Okay. So 33. So 12 is less than that, 97. And now you can see this is the entire tree constructed. So what are the pivot? In first iteration, 3 is a pivot. Second iteration, 11. Then 6, 33 is a pivot. So remember, I have selected 3, 11, 6, and 33 as pivots during recursion. And depending on that, I get this. Depending on this choice of random pivot, the number of comparisons will actually change. Okay. If you, take some other number as a pivot, the tree would be different. Okay. Can you tell me which type of sorting over this tree will give you sorted answer? Can you do some tree traversal on this tree so that you will get a sorted answer? Janet is very correct. Okay. It is in order traversal. If you see in order traversal, first is 1, then 3, then you go depth, then 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, 33, and 97. So this, if you do an in order traversal of a tree, okay, then you will get a sorted data, that is this. This is just an intuition. We don't actually need to do in order traversal, okay, but this is just an intuition. Okay, I want to focus on a one point, that depending on the pivot is selected randomly. Can I say that depending on pivot selection, the number of comparisons, that total number of comparisons would be different? Are you able to understand this point? Yes. Okay. So because I am selecting pivot differently, okay, then depending on that, okay, the number of comparisons will change. So can I say my running time, which is a number of comparison, is actually number of comparison is a random variable? Number of comparison is a random variable because it can take different answers. Okay, sometimes the comparisons would be, let's say, 10, then sometimes it would be 8 and 13 also. So it can take different values. So it is a random variable. Number of comparisons is a random variable. Okay, depending on what? Depends on pivot. Okay, that means it depends on a random element selected as pivot. Random element selected as pivot. Okay, so as you change the random elements, actually the number of comparisons would deviate. Okay, it would be sometimes less, sometimes more. So what is that what we should try to prove? Yes, Urjit, Janet, Chandresh, what is that? Because running time is itself a random, right? Depending on the random variable pivot selection, the number of comparisons is different. And sorting के लिए तो number of comparisons is only the running time, right? So can I say running time is a random variable? Everybody, please tell me. Can I say running time is a random variable? So when running time is a random variable, what is a good choice to do? What is a good choice for analysis? Analyze क्या करना चाहिए? Exact number of comparison को analyze करना चाहिए या expected number of comparison that we should focus? What is that we expected number of it? Yes, very correct. So what we will do, that we will see that expected running time. What is running time? Remember, don't get confused between running time and comparisons, because for sorting, running time is number of comparisons. Okay, expected number of comparisons. Okay, we have to show that since running time is a random variable, so we have to show that expected number of expected running time is upper bounded by n log n. Okay, and this is what we will show. Okay, okay, using a concept of random variable and indicator random variable. This is what we are going to see in the next lecture. Okay, that finally expected number of comparison is n log n. Okay. But before ending this lecture, I want to tell you, what do you mean by rank of element? Rank of element. Anybody? For example, I have some data, let's say 20, 30, 40, 10, and 50. So what is the rank of 10, element 10? Are you aware about this concept? Okay, so yes, Jagdish, yes, very correct. Jagdish is correct. Index at which it will occur if the array is sorted. If you take this definition, what is the rank of element 10? No. Jagdish, what will be that? 1. Very correct. I mean, if you start from 1, if you start from 0, then it would be 0. Okay. So if you take this 40, 30, 10, 20, and 50, so rank of 10 is 1, because if you take a, yes, index number in a sorted array. Okay, Urjit, is this clear? Index number in a sorted array, that is known as a rank. So rank of 10 is 1, rank of 20 is 2, rank of 30 is 3, rank of 40 is 4, and rank of 50 is 5. Clear, everybody? Keval and others? Yes. Okay, so this will be useful for analysis. In the next lecture, we will show in detail that expected running time is n log n. Okay, so remember this strategy for Las Vegas algorithm. We will, running time is itself a random variable, and we will see that expected running time is upper bounded by some quantity. Here it is n log. NP completeness will be taught by Malay sir. And worst case, when every time randomly chosen, yes, Jenny, there is no guarantee that worst case will not occur. Okay, if you are very unlucky, the random pivot is such that n square number of comparisons will be done. Are you asking for that, na Janet? Yes, yes, that can happen. But the probability of or chance of that is very low. Okay. Yes. Yes, but I cannot say no to that. If random numbers are such, then it will be possible, but on an average, it would be n log n. Is it okay, Janet? Fine. Yes, Jagdish, any questions? NP completeness will be covered by MSB, sir. If you want, if you have any questions, then you can also mail me on this. I'm writing my email address. Anybody can contact me for any doubt. Okay? Thank you so much.